So, hello and um, welcome everyone to this first episode of The Moment about this time about Grifters, Narcissists, and the Devourer. So, Neirum, I've seen you post a lot of videos on the topic about Grifters and Narcissists.
Yeah, man. Because I have come to realize that it's the central issue across any political group, comic book group, different people that's like sci-fi, Star Wars and Star Trek people, everything across the board. These type of people ruin every group. They ruin it for everybody, and they pit us against each other. And yeah, that's why I talk about it all the time. I think that's the central problem that we all can handle if we talk about it.
Yeah, I do think that it's very important to talk about it so that we're aware.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. With any issue, if it goes unspoken, then it's hard to really articulate what the problem is. So it's important to spend focused time speaking out what the issue is and fleshing it out with our words, so that we can uh, pass on that idea to other people. Because a lot of the time these issues are kind of things that we feel, and maybe it's not as obvious to other people as it is for us, or maybe they're having a hard time articulating that thought that we all share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed there's a lot of YouTube influencers that basically go around abusing people that don't toe their party line. And there's so many different parties that we can say. I'm just using that because it's a term we know. But I've been saying that, all the fake politics back in the 80s and 90s that we all want to criticize on the internet, the exact same thing is happening now. You have people that toe this ideological line and say buzzwords to make their audiences cheer, even though they don't really believe this stuff themselves. It's a grift. Like all the politics was a grift back in the 80s and 90s, when we were kids. And that's the thing that I really want to highlight. We haven't done anything glorious or different here on the internet. We have the same culture of these nasty, mean, fake people wearing masks, controlling all these other people, telling them what to do. These sycophants, basically.
Yeah. I mean, myself, over time, I've come to that conclusion myself. I started to just call it the Devourer, basically, the Devourer archetype. I was starting to see it everywhere around me, like pop up in those different individuals. And I don't know, like I see it like some form of archetype that is just everywhere, possessing all kinds of different people that have any form of power. And I mean, looking at it from the perspective of like archetypes and Jung, it's pretty much a combination of like the shadow side of the king archetype, so the tyrant, and the shadow side of the magician and the trickster, pretty much what is going on. And the thing is that it just, yeah, regarding those people, I mean, I don't really know what to do with in that regard, but I do know that it's important that people get awareness, because in those old myths, basically, where for instance, like Zeus fights Kronos. Kronos represents basically this this tyrant, a narcissistic individual, and what he did is he sucked up all, he ate all of the other gods, so controlling their consciousness. And it was then Zeus representing the hero in the story, which is really about consciousness, that created that awareness and then freed the other gods. So it's like, that's one thing that I know of. But the thing is, even in that story, in that myth, there's nothing really what they could do other than to lock him up, basically, in the lowest parts of the underworld. That's what the Greeks in that myth did. So I really don't know, but with that regards. But yeah, I think that awareness is very, very important, and I think that not just awareness, but also looking at like why people gravitate towards it, because I found myself in a lot of different groups that I've been myself part of, because I used to be part of some different groups on Twitter, but also on Discord, that basically the thought leader had that type of tendencies. And if you wouldn't toe the party line, you wouldn't make it in such a group. They would it was just the mob started just attacking you. And I don't know, like what I've noticed is that a lot of individuals in there are kind of dealing with some forms of trauma. I've noticed, but also plenty that are just clinging on to something that gives them meaning.
They're looking for a family, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Like somewhere to belong.
Totally. Yeah. I agree with what you said, man. Yes. Yep.
So in that sense, the one way to approach it would be to create alternative structures, alternative communities that would have some sort of moderation against these people, so that they couldn't get the like overhand.
What would something like that look like? I'm curious.
Yeah, that would be pretty much a really good question. Like, yeah, what would that look like?
What, like where those narcissistic grifters didn't have power?
Yeah.
Right, or even something that would
Well,
deter them.
I think we talked about it earlier in the Discord on like Camelot, that there's stories about trying to be like that. I don't know if in reality it has, or that information was burned or lost, or I don't know, but I get the sense that people built these great things together, and I don't think it was all just like horrible tyranny and people being awful to each other constantly all the time. I think there have been golden ages that have been lost. That's probably a whole other topic, but kind of goes into like, well, I think there are societies, civilizations that did exist where they did not allow these people to have power. And I think the evidence of that is still left written in stone, everywhere, really.
I think that's a good point, especially when it comes to like older civilizations that had a big focus on something that was trans personal. Like the focus of the organization or of the civilization was something that was bigger than any one individual. So even the individual at the top was representing something that was a reflection of all people.
Yeah.
And I think we see that in like religious civilizations and things like that. Because it's focusing on something that's beyond yourself. And a conversation that I realize I have a lot with a lot of people is how religion gave humans in ancient times something to focus on that was bigger than themselves. It's like, okay, I could make a farm for me and my family, and of course that matters to me. It doesn't matter to this other family that's next to me. But if I want to make a temple that has something to do more than my family, more than their family, singular family, then when we get together, we can make something that's really special and beautiful.
Yeah, like there's a lot of evidence that the Egyptians ate the blue water lily and were like tripping on psychedelics, and then the Mayans, they were doing all that stuff. I think that has something to do with it. It evoking a religious experience, and people have done that a lot with that type of thing. I think you can do it in other ways. I've heard some crazy stuff about that Kundalini yoga. I've never tried that. But, there's other breathing exercises now. I have done the Wim Hof thing, and I see you guys have something here about it. Now, that has tripped me out and put me into some psychedelic states for sure. And I think people that do that together on Sunday or whatever, on a day they pick, and deal with their bullshit together and talk about it, I think they become great civilizations. I think that's the beginning. It can get way more complicated after that, but I think we're seeing that starting to happen again. But I think we forget how old we are. I think about how long we've been here in this form, like how our body is, and with language and walking around and building stuff. I'm like, it's so long. It's like a hole almost of darkness, like how long we've been around, rising and falling. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, but for sure, like many civilizations have come and gone, and I don't know. Like I've started looking into it. Also, especially after watching the Aeon series that Uberboy had made, and started really digging deep into it, and yeah, just yeah, I'm feeling that like we're now at that point where where the cycle might be just starting over. Like like the shift from how they put it from Pisces to Aquarius, and I kind of think, I don't know, like I'm starting to see that arise around me at least. But I mean, might just be the people I associate with.
I think that's a lot of it too. I've cut out a lot of people that this is the baseline for me. Like whenever something good is happening to you, and then your friends aren't happy too, and they say like must be nice or something like that, you got to like get away from those people. And I've noticed that's like a common denominator that I can reference to be like, this is a red flag. Whenever there's something good is happening to them, I'm happy. I'll throw them a party, surprise party or something. And you know what I mean? Gotta be around people that are happy when you're happy.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think it's also, I don't know, in general has to do with just looking at like bringing it back to like archetypes again, with like what the king archetype really represents in its like proper form, and it's like setting like the proper boundaries that, like for your own mind, about like this is what I tolerate, this is what I don't tolerate, this is how I'm going to live my life, kind of approach. And that you don't tolerate that like bullshit from like either grifters or narcissists. You have like clear proper like boundaries and a good structure that you try to maintain. And maybe just look for the red flags and just make sure that they stay out of control. But maybe in that sense, at the other hand, it's also like I've been thinking like, well, if I would create a space in which people are really aware or like reflecting on themselves a lot, and coming together really, and to form that type of community, that maybe it would be very difficult for such a narcissist or some grifter to just come in there and try to take control. It's like
Yeah, that's my hope too. Yeah, just the more people that speak up and be like, "Hey, this," or just have friendly debates. It doesn't even have to. They had these old ancient Platonic dialogues are meant to be like, I'm going to set up this argument, this Iron Man argument. It's not me. I'm not going to take it personally if you attack this idea. This is an idea I'm producing, and we're going to simulate a battle between these two ideas. Now people just take it so personally, and get, I don't know, it gets out of hand, and it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, and it really started to make me wonder, like, why, or like, yeah, like they're clinging to that idea, and it's as if that idea is them. It's like they're kind of there's not that difference anymore. And maybe it has to do with something deeper in that sense. Maybe I used to talk a lot to one friend of mine who looked into sociology a lot because that's what he does, and he talked a lot about people people with trauma, but also people that are, for instance, insecure and don't have that proper structure around them for that forms like belonging and meaning. They then end up clinging to such beliefs so hard that they cannot not really part with it, and that they, in that sense, become then so aggressive because it's like they're the lower part of their brain, the lower part of their brain gets like sort of connected to it. It's like if you attack that belief, you attack the
Trauma.
The trauma, and in that sense, it brings out the survival response. Basically, it's like their life
Wow,
depends on.
I've never made that connection. That's really heavy, man. Wow. Yeah. I think you're right. When I piece together memories of interacting with people like that, you're totally right. And then it makes it impossible to change anybody's mind. They have a permanent subjective morality based upon that trauma or something. But I have known people that have gone through serious traumas and then they, get out of it and they self-individuate. But I think individual self-individuated people are really rare anyway. And I've had this talk with people before, and I'll bring up this subject too. Do you think that there is a set limit of people that are able to self-individuate? And then other people are like, oh, he's an individual. I can just kind of go on autopilot. There's no need for me to self-individuate. And then also, if everyone did self-individuate, I guess people have brought up there wouldn't be people to work. There wouldn't be a natural society like we have known before. There would be everybody going in a totally different, separate direction. And, would that be a bad thing?
I think that's really interesting. That's a really interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the least there's people that tend to want to individuate more, or you could even say, I mean, what is individuation? It's like conscious self-reflection. It's being aware of your reflection, not just reflecting, but like reflecting and then taking a step back to look upon that reflection as well. And that's kind of like the process of individuation. I think there's people that naturally are gonna want to individuate more or gonna want to reflect more, but there's also like a big barrier to wanting to do that because the process of individuation, the process of self-reflection is not a pretty one. You know, it's like everyone wants to have a good body, not everybody wants to put in the work to get a good body. And when you see someone that has a good body, you have to respect the effort that they put in to get there. But you know, like not everyone is gonna have that drive to do that. I think in general, it'd be better if more people did do that. It'd be better if that was like one of the values that we held on to as a society, as a civilization in general, the importance of self-reflection. And I think more people are learning that now. But at the same time, it's really hard. It's really hard. And I think one thing too that we have to keep in mind with stuff like this is compassion for other people. You know, like it's easy for people that have reflected and have gone through that suffering that it puts you through and opening up old trauma. Because like, and I think in general, life is traumatic for everyone in some way. You know, and self-reflection is having to look at those traumas and see how those traumas have affected the way that you view the world now. So to keep your eyes open and to look back at that, and having done that already to some extent, you know that it's painful and it's not easy. You know, it's like the Oedipus story. He wanted to take his eyes out after finding out the truth, and that's kind of what it's like to individuate. At some points you see amazing parts of yourself, and other points you see terrible things of yourself. And both of them are parts of yourself that you have to accept if you're going to individuate. So I think when we see people that haven't gone into that process or haven't done much of it, it's important to be compassionate about where they're at also, because it's a painful place, you know, and you know yourself before you had gone into that process, you probably made those similar mistakes. So I think it's important to have that compassion as well.
Totally, man. And that's kind of the conclusion I've come to as well. You know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm getting that we just kind of are all where we're at, and it's cool because some people go all the way, man, and they come back along the beach and let you know. So, and if they want to go, they can. You know, deeper into the jungle or whatever metaphor, and find the treasure. But you can also get eaten by the tiger. You can also get, you know, captured or something and used in someone else's tribe for bad things. So it is risky, but some people come back with some crazy shit and make things better. But that I bring that up about that because I feel like there's a lot of resentment in very intellectual communities of like, oh, these people are stupid, they're never going to understand, and I bring that up as a way of like looking at it a different way. You know, everybody can't be the same. We can't. In other words, we all can't be individuals. You know, or you know, I don't want to put it that way. We all don't want to go on this epic journey, this hero's quest or whatever, and test ourselves. Really, some people are okay having a boss. You know, other people have to start their own business. Some people have to be an artist. You know what I mean? And I just find that a lot of influencers, YouTube influencers, are on there telling people how to live their life. We all have to be this way, the way I am, and they embody it, and they're like a coach or something. And I think it's silly. Anyway.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is definitely on point. I think you're definitely right about that, especially at the end, like people telling others how to live online. Of course, there's things that can generally help others, but I think in a world that's as confusing as ours, right? When you really take a step back, like think about it, you know, we're the cousins of chimpanzees that are speaking on a planet that's in a universe that's unable to be understood by our brains completely, going somewhere that we don't know. No idea what we're doing here, no direction or anything like that. I think it's important to find your own truth in life, you know? And like you said, some people, there's good people that want to be bosses in life, there's people that want to be workers. It's not that one is definitely better or more important than the other. Both of them have a place in the system of life that we have. But when searching for truth and things like that, it's so elusive that you got to find some of it within yourself, I think, to really feel that satisfaction in life.
Yeah, and I think so. I agree. I totally agree with this. The thing is that's yeah, it's it's pretty much like yeah what it is. It's about like finding it out for yourself. Because I don't think that anyone truly can tell you exactly everything about yourself in such a manner like this is what you need to be doing kind of thing. I mean, you might gravitate towards something, but I mean, you shouldn't stick to something like too dogmatically. At least that's what I believe.
Yeah, you look at all this Jack Murphy stuff that happened. The dude with the Cruella de Vil beard, and he was like this masculine coach, teaching dudes how to be alpha males, giga chads, all these buzzwords, right? And then you find out, you know, he's on ChatterBait sitting on objects, for money, and he's lost all these followers. He's not who he said he was. he's put up this false pretense of who he is and what he's all about. And he gets on there yelling at men, telling them that you're not man enough for your wife. And, meanwhile, he's letting his wife, get with other men on camera for money. So,
In that sense, like, yeah, and I don't know. I mean, you could argue there that like, yeah, he didn't, yeah, he didn't actually truly embody it, and that's kind of a really really important thing when it comes to the whole process of well, individuation as well is to yeah is to embody it, which is pretty much like the king archetype. And it's like if you do not get there and first live it yourself, then I mean I don't know. Then I'm kind of like why tell other people to do this thing if you're not really truly living it yourself? Like how do you know if it works or not?
have any of you guys read God Emperor of Dune?
I have not.
No, I haven't.
Well, I'll go ahead and spoil it for the sake of this discussion. It's a book that's a sci-fi book. It's set 10,000 years in the future, and all the people are on these different planets, and they're fighting over this one psychedelic um, mineral called spice, and you take it, and you can see into the future, and you can open wormholes safely, and it's the only way you can travel because computers are banned. Long story short, this dude takes so much of this psychedelic spice that he turns into this alien worm monster that has superpowers and psychic abilities, and he dominates all the human people. Um, and he does this for thousands of years, and he just doesn't allow people to read and write. He enslaves everybody, and he does this so that they get epigenetically recoded to hate listening to anybody tell them what to do. So he bred them to hate authority. And then after a few thousand years, their genetics literally couldn't take it anymore. And they rose up and killed everybody and started doing all this stuff. And after they were done, they didn't form a new government. They all scattered into every direction. It went to every single star that was different and never spoke to each other ever again. And the God Emperor, this big psychic person that got all these abilities and saw into the future, he did this all on purpose because he knew it was the only way that the human race would survive in the long term is if they rejected the idea of leaders and they self-individuated. And I just thought that was a very interesting conclusion to a book. I've never read anything quite like that. Usually it's like you get a new king, you get this thing, you get that thing. Like, no, we all fucked off in a different star system and we never talked to each other again. And we all lived happily ever after.
Yeah, perhaps it is that there is some sort of safety in smaller groups that is lacking in bigger ones. And we all do need safe spaces to reflect and, yeah, think about the deeper things. And maybe that's not so easy in bigger groups.
I think that's a great point. Sometimes I think to myself too, like, what is the right amount of people to live together in a civilization that they can still feel like individuals, because whenever you have a group of people, there's parts of yourself that you kind of have to let go to conform into the group, whether it's consciously or not. And we're seeing that now, but like on the biggest scale. I live in a country with 300 million people, so of course there's things in myself that if I lived in a different country would be expressed that I'm not even aware of right now, because I couldn't be as a result of the group that I was born into, the country, the nation that I was born into. And that is a really interesting book. It's an interesting conclusion that people go and all live by themselves, and that's how we survive. That's really interesting. I wonder if that's the way that it's going to turn out for us, in a sense. Like, if we stop trying to have these really big groups and just kind of focus more on the individual, I guess you could say.
Well, I know that in the sense of a lot of the old mythological stories, I'm gonna take here like Ragnarok from Norse mythology as an example. But what kind of happens there is that the two sides are basically one side is Loki, the trolls, and the giants, and then on the other side you have the gods, and they're like, while they're fighting and killing each other, which both sides wipe each other out. The people that survive are the ones that go to the world tree, so like to the self, and others that hide in the woods, and they form like their form their small, in that sense there's small groups again of actually individuated people. Well, the rest basically just kills each other off. And in Norse mythology, like that's pretty much what they're saying regarding to that type of story. And in that sense, the going away to different planets is in that sense probably like quite close to it. So they yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I think the what you said, that they all went into like trees. Because when I think of a forest, like even just the general symbol of a tree is a really prominent one throughout all mythology. And one way you could think of it, I was listening to Marie Louise von Franz. She did this lecture about death and dreams, and one thing she was talking about was the Grim Reaper and why the Grim Reaper has this scythe. Because like growing up, I never knew like what is the point of that? It doesn't make sense. But they would talk about how they would speak about life and like ancient Egypt and these different civilizations as wheat, and life was like the wheat growing from the ground, and then the reaper was a scythe that would cut it down. So life was something that came from the soil, and within like the seed of wheat or of any plant, of a tree, the imprint of like the possibility of the entire tree was already in there. So it grows out from the ground and then gets cut down by death and stuff like that. And yeah, so it just goes to show the complexity of the symbol of the tree. But I also think of it as like as an individuated person, because each tree, like of course it's a type of tree, like a species or whatever of tree, but also it's itself, and it's reaching up towards the sky. And they talk about how it's like as above, so below. It's reaching up towards the sky, but also getting its roots deeper, deeper, deeper. It's what we came from before. So I think it's interesting that the ones that survived Ragnarok were the ones that were with the trees. That's really interesting.
Something about trees I want to comment on real quick. I've heard a lot of people say, as above, so below, and the roots reflect the branches. I don't know why I didn't know this sooner. Living in a forest, I've seen this 100 times before. But the roots only go a few inches in dirt, and they don't like what as they say, taproot very deep down. Some do go like a foot, but I always got the impression, I've seen all these memes and pictures, but then you go out in the forest and you see a tree falling over, and it looks like a plate, and that's exactly what it's called. It's called a root plate, and that's as deep as they go into the dirt. And I didn't know if anybody else knew that or not, but I didn't know that. I'll admit it, but I thought that was interesting. It blew my mind.
Yeah, it depends on the kind of tree. I think spruce has that kind of not so deep roots.
But yeah, but then coming back to like the grifters and the narcissists, like I don't know, like I've been thinking also for quite a while already, just about like, well, how to like approach then the people that are within those groups, and like how to end all of that division that is being driven. It's really something that I've been struggling with a lot.
Well, I can tell you how to fight those people, but this is what the victory looks like. When you win an argument with them, they delete all of your tweets where they lost. That's what they do. They'll cover their tracks, and the only people that they allow around them are people that allow them that allow them to abuse them. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. All the other people that are individuated, that are like, hey, what about this point or whatever, they will argue with you. They will say, why are you still following me then? If you disagree, just unfollow me. They expect you to have your finger hovering over the unfollow button. Like, I'm new to Twitter and everything. I wasn't aware of that ritual, but I was like, okay. But my girlfriend followed this girl because it was a girl that I got in this Twitter argument with. My girlfriend followed her and saw that she kept talking and talking about it. And then everybody in her Twitter was like, was he right though? And then the next thing you know, she deleted all that stuff. So that's what it looks like, a victory. It doesn't even matter to them, and there's nothing you can really do to dispel it, because and this person, just goes on like nothing happens, and all of them do that. I've found that the females and the males act differently. The males do this alpha giga chad, type of thing, and the louder they yell at you now, the more right they are. And well, I've noticed that they just pick a target, continuously shit on somebody until they're higher than them, and everybody can see them, and then they're all cheering. That's what it looks like. That pattern is, and it doesn't matter what you say; they just make this straw man of you over and over that people begin to think is really you. So, if you can either take the abuse or you can walk away. So, and even if you do win, like I said, they'll delete it. They'll hide it. They'll act like it didn't happen, and all their followers will happily go along with it. And that's all they care about, is their sphere, their influence, their sphere of influence. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, like looking at like the grifter or the narcissist themselves, like I don't know, personally I wouldn't approach them at all. Like I would just avoid any shit with those people. I would go for all of the I would go and probably talk to some of the more active followers of those people, and just talk about anything but what's causing either the division or like whatever else is going on. I mean, I've done things like that in the past in groups like that, and it normally seems to work well in like yeah, making people think, basically. It's kind of like what I've been doing in the past a lot. It's like make just people, the followers, basically think for themselves and get them to that point, and it's like, and they can figure it out on their own.
I think that can also be achieved by directly attacking the giant, because whenever I got into these altercations with people, and this is the sick part of it that I'm not liking about being on the internet, the more you argue with people, the more popular you get, depending on how well you handle yourself. You know, either people will like your negative energy or your positive energy, and they see that displayed in your battles. Because I had all kinds of people come and follow my page and come to my Twitter, and I was like, I guess this is what this is, and it's not very pretty. I don't like it. It's like a coliseum. It feels like, you know.
Well, Twitter in that sense kind of is. It's a coliseum, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I left there, to be honest, because it's a very draining place to be.
Yeah, it only rewards you if you draw your sword out and you battle. You find something to feel strongly about, and it like milks your energy from it. I can feel that. And I've just been on there for 2 weeks. Just bad vibes, mostly.
Yeah, usually what I've read as advice, according to like some psychologists, about narcissists in personal relationships would be no contact. Just don't allow them to abuse you. Just don't answer to them. But I know that that's a difficult thing to do, especially if it's someone like that means something to you. But that's what advice I've seen about it. And I think that was such a good thing that you said, Leek, about remembering to have compassion, and really something that also helps to relieve this whole cultural situation is people who self-reflect and want to heal their trauma, and then once they do that and individuate more, they can help other people by telling their stories. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Maybe in that sense, then, yeah, something like that could then have like a snowball effect in changing things. But then, like, yeah, you kind of need like a space where people can like self-reflect and talk to other people safely, to like, yeah, express themselves without those people shitting on them, or like abusing them, or have some weird like Twitter mob or whatever else kind of weird shit going on. It's really like a safe haven from all of that nonsense.
Yeah, totally. And when these people or tribes are in their safe areas, their kingdoms, their Camelots, if you will, then there's no reason we can't trade what we come up with, inventions, books, ideas, music. But the problem is forcing each other into a monoculture that we can't even agree on either. It's just like, let's all jam together and hell with the consequences, just mix it all together. It would be like if you went underneath your kitchen sink and you mixed every single chemical together and we're just like, this is good. This is very healthy. I'm going to breathe all of this in. This is clearly the right thing. And it's not. You don't want to have a diversity of chemicals in one pot. You want to find out what works with people, what they're comfortable with, because everybody has their own specific levels of tolerance or circles of tolerance. Everybody's got a funny looking circle, just like states do. I remember there's this show called How the States Got Their Shapes, and they've got their own original weird story, usually as rivers or a mountain range. And the same is true with people. There's a reason we all have our outlines of what we're tolerating here and what we're absolutely going to want to include in our tolerance bubble. And that has to be talked about. That can't be just something that's, cast aside casually like it's a terrible idea or a baseless idea, or a bad idea. Anyway, yeah.
I think too, like what you were saying about trying to create like a monoculture and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like part of it is the human kind of being like overly optimistic, I guess, because I feel like it's not realistic to have some monoculture that everyone is gonna love. It's important to embrace individuality. It's like, yes, we're all very similar. We're all human. We're like 99.5% the same. You know, very very similar. But even within that 0.5%, there's a reflection of the infinite that creates all of us, right? There's infinite different possibilities of personalities and characteristics that each person has. And I think the best way, or I don't know, the best way I've seen to get along is to one, be able to embrace the individuality within yourself, but understand that your individuality is not everyone else's individuality. Like the way that I find happiness in my life is not necessarily the way that my brother or my sister is going to find that too. And yeah, it just kind of, you have to take yourself out of it. Like to go back to the whole narcissistic thing. It's like you can't want to force your way of living onto everyone else in the world. We should just embrace everyone's ability to have their own way and encourage them to go on that path to find that way.
Yeah, and I also think that when it comes to individuals, I mean, they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, their own, like they're yeah, they're all something unique in that sense. And I think like every individual brings something unique into the world, like a unique gift of sorts. It's about like, for the individual, I feel finding out what that is, what is their part in the whole. And it doesn't have to be just like the same thing, like one size fits all solution. Like, this is the culture, this is how we all like do everything, like that kind of approach. And I think it's like very diverse how that looks like for people, like what their needs are, what is important to them. But I think if we can allow for that to happen, and not try to control everything, that society would be much different, like much different. I don't even think that I would be able to like picture how such a thing would even look like.
Yeah, I have no idea what that would look like. I'm not sure we've ever done that before. But I think that also comes to the importance of these conversations, It's like I don't think it's gonna happen on accident. So it's important to articulate these feelings that we have and make them more known. The fact that we're having this conversation now, you're getting to hear different perspectives on a very similar same issue. And by being aware of those perspectives, you get a better understanding of it. It's like if you're looking at someone and you look at one of their arms, you're not going to get to see the entirety of their essence. You have to put puzzle pieces to the puzzle together to better understand the issue at hand. And I think it's the same with this.
It is. It is still a mystery.
Yeah. That totally is.
I think that's what's missing from a lot of this stuff too, is these influencers, they're not mystified by anything. They have to act so certain because they're held captive by their audience. And they have to do this song and dance that's not even real. Yeah.
I think some of that stems from the fear of being wrong. Like if your main goal is the truth, then you're gonna have to accept that you're gonna make mistakes along the way defining that. And even then, the word truth is so elusive, right? You might never be in possession of it. Maybe you're aware of what it is in a situation, but to possess the truth entirely is like, I don't know. It's like finding the end of a rainbow. And yeah, I think as an influencer, there's a big amount of pressure that's put on you as like someone's like, oh, well, like the word itself, you're an influencer. You influence a lot of people's understanding of the world and their perspective of the world. So it's like there's a lot of pressure on that person to be right and to always be on the right side. And I think that's completely unrealistic. Like you're holding people to standards that's just not possible or sustainable over long periods of time. And yeah, I think there's just too much of people being afraid of being wrong and treated terribly for being wrong. There's things that are wrong that obviously like we won't put up with. The majority of people is based off of their values. But in the pursuit of truth, in the pursuit of honesty in situations, you're going to be wrong at times, and like with Twitter specifically, it's social media in general. It's like if you're wrong, then you get bombarded. So then you're afraid of being wrong, which slows down the process of finding truth by so much.
Yeah, I would just add that I think that they're afraid to speak from the heart, because like I don't feel like any of us know exactly what we're going to say in this room. We're listening to each other and processing it, and we're responding to each other. Don't have any kind of like script or hey, like, subscribe, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? This kind of song and dance is what I call it, and I don't know. People listen to these people that aren't speaking from the heart, and I guess that's because they're afraid to do that too. They want to put on this tough man persona where they yell at everybody and they're always right, so they feel more confident. I guess. I mean, I'm really guessing. I don't know. That's what I think though.
It just seems to me that it stems from their insecurity that they act like that.
Definitely. I think it's insecurity based off of a lot of times like the fear of being vulnerable. You know, um, yeah, a lot of people they build themselves up to be almost more than human. And one thing that we know about humans is that we make mistakes. And by holding yourself to this standard that's like beyond a person, it's like you have to get rid of that. Like, oh, I'm invulnerable. I will always get it right. So that they're literally saying that, but that's what their actions reflect. That's what their actions are saying. And yeah, it's insecurity. It's not being honest with yourself. So if you're not being honest with yourself, then you can't do like what you were saying before. Speaking from the heart.
Yeah.
Like their statues, yeah. The YouTube on the recording everything being permanently recorded, they're like, this is my statue, so to speak. And they're very upset if somebody throws tomatoes on their statue, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think that's
oh. Yeah, now it makes sense.
And they have all these people like cleaning their statue and making their statue have bigger muscles or something, and like, just, I don't know. I just got that vision in my head when you were saying all that, Leek. That's what I started to think about.
Yeah, I think that's so true. It's like when you look back at history and they have like these portraits of kings and they make them look so much better than they actually did. It's like, he didn't look like that. He had blemishes like anybody else. He had wrinkles like anybody else. But they're going to put the most idealized version of him as the thing that is constant throughout time. What lasts the longest? This statue made out of rock, something that's so firm and unchanging. But realistically, we know that's not true. We know that's not true.
Yeah, but it ends up becoming very, very rigid too, in that sense, and then you end up to basically, I don't know, also plateau in some sense. Because I mean, where's new growth possible if you just are like this rigid statue of yourself with those big muscles there standing, just like it's just dead. It's like anything connected. Anything connected to life is more like water, like it flows and it just and it changes form constantly. I mean, and the thing is, I think that those type of things should be more seen, like past videos should be more seen as things from the past, really. And the thing is, like, it's okay to change. And to admit that you were wrong. And I think that's, yeah. And I think
Yeah, it should be like a yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just saying it's like a video journal, like a progression of who you're turning into by the people you interact with on the internet. There are some YouTubers that do that, but I've noticed they don't have that many followers, but their followers are very dedicated and cool and have active discords, and I think that's all that matters. And Hutahiri, sorry if I butchered that name. You were saying earlier, maybe that's better. The smaller groups, we can get along better. It feels more like a living room environment, like we're all chilling. Nobody's gonna like start coming in here and yelling and being crazy. If they do, we'll all agree, like, let's get them out of here, right? Like, this sucks.
Yeah, also remembered now that, Boss, you said earlier to me that a kind of what do you call that? Like a counter to the Devourer would be the Trickster archetype, and to come with humor. And that's how we balance that side of in ourselves too. A lot of times that we come with, we joke about how we've been acting or something, to relieve that and to move on from it when we've been doing wrong. I just wanted to bring that in still here, and very honored to be in this conversation. Thank you.
Me too. It's cool to talk to people that are not telling Bob Saget jokes or acting like someone they're not. Yeah, it's really tiresome meeting crazy people all the time on the internet.
Definitely. And same, like what you guys were saying, thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for having me, allowing me to be a part of this. Yeah, I think with Kutihara, I'm not sure how to say it, Kutihuri? I'm not sure. But what you were saying before also with the Trickster, that's so true. That's a great point, because the whole thing is like, maybe just stop taking yourself so seriously, And even what I was saying before, like the uncertainty of the world that we live in, the complexity of the world, and we know that it's so much more complex than we understand. Yet sometimes we take it so seriously and kind of it's like we're almost holding our breath in, trying to uphold this image that's not realistic, you know. And if you're able to let go and laugh a little bit, you're able to not as easily fall into the traps of ego inflation and narcissism, I think. And I think also it's like it's interesting that you sometimes see people like that online who try and uphold this unrealistic standard for everyone else. A lot of the time they're just not funny people. Like they have terrible comedy or they miss jokes all the time. And it's like they're out of touch with that archetype of the trickster. They're out of touch with that part of themselves that can laugh at life a little bit, which I think we all need.
Yeah, I think they can't laugh at themselves and other people that poke fun at them. You know, if somebody's, you know, poking fun at you, it's just kind of natural to like laugh it off. But, you know, some people get really mad the first time. They get really, I don't know, like a demon comes out is the best way I could describe it when I've seen it in person. And then they're getting all combative with you and have to dominate you and like publicly do it. And then it never ends well for them because if you just stand your ground, it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin. You know, it's like, I have the high ground, man. Like, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm not trying to come at you, bro. It's nothing. Nothing's nothing like that. I didn't mean anything by that. And you're starting to blow up like this, and everybody notices. They watch. Nobody has their back. And then they just jump. They go for it. And then you just cut their legs out from under them, man, because they're enraged. They're not thinking clearly. They're going to hurt you, you know?
Yeah, and in that sense, like what comes up, that the demon is really that trickster capacity within themselves combined with like their ego lashing out, and then you have like their that inner like rigidness from like what, yeah, the structure that they've built for themselves, and then they're, yeah. They've created themselves into like like a a copper man, a tin man. That then yeah, and it just, yeah, it it's just not good for anyone really long term to do something like that. You need that like humility through laughter from the trickster to like be able to be adaptable, to be able to laugh at jokes about yourself, and to really like balance things out, because that's really what it is about. In the end, like, yeah, someone who can flow like water will outdo anyone who builds himself into like some stone statue. And it's also for me like a real honor that all of you guys are here, because I mean, space like this, like the server, but also like now the podcast. I mean, it's about people coming together and talking, just talking from the heart. That's kind of what like what is truly missing, I feel.
Yeah, man, I've got a lot out of it. Especially what you said about when you try to talk to people about some finer points, and they get very angry, you know, about religion or even YouTube influencer groups or you name it nowadays. You're attacking their trauma. You know, a lot of these people are watching these influencers yelling and abusing people probably because it's helping them feel like, yeah, I'm standing up to my trauma. This guy's making me feel empowered, um, or whatever happens with the female side. I'm not sure on that, but I've noticed a lot with the males that that's what that is, I think. And I wouldn't have had that insight if I hadn't talked to you guys. So awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I want.
yeah.
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to touch real quickly on the Trickster one more time. I had a series of dreams at a time of my life where I think I was kind of embodying maybe a little bit too much of that stone statue, like trying too hard to do the right thing instead of kind of just flowing with life. And I had these dreams where it was like somebody was chasing me, and I would always feel super scared. Like I wouldn't even want to see what they wanted to do with me or anything like that. It's just like, oh, it felt like they were chasing me down all the time. And then eventually that symbol in that dream continued to progress, and it became someone that was in like a Joker outfit, and he was chasing me down with like a gun. Like that's what it was like in every dream, like this cartoonish gun almost of this guy chasing me down. And eventually, I had this one dream where I was at a music school, I guess you could say, which the music school is kind of like to be good at music, you have to be able to flow. Like you can't be rigid and good at music. You have to be able to really get in touch with letting things go and come to you in that same type of way. And at the music studio, some guy, same symbol, someone with a gun comes to me. But then he speaks to me and he's like, hey, let's just talk. And it wasn't even anything angry. So in all these other dreams previous to that, I'd been running away from it, running away from that jokester, running away from that ability to laugh at myself and take things less seriously. And then when I finally allowed it to, I was able to create music. I was able to be like water and flow with life and stop going against the stream, against the current so much, and learn to just be with it. And yeah, I thought it was just interesting that you guys brought that up before, the jokes there.
That's so cool. Nice dream.
It was cool after, but the dreams before I realized what was happening, they felt very stressful. But that's the thing, though. It was always unnecessary stress that I was putting on myself. I didn't have to do that. If I was open to seeing what that person wanted, then it could have been fixed so much earlier. But it was really myself getting in the way of being able to create.
So such a nice example, though.
Clowns have always been really scary to me, man. So I understand that. But that's cool that it represented that, and then you were able to make music after you hung out with it and had a conversation. In other words, you gave it a job. You were like, "This is your place." You integrated your shadow, I think, is what that was.
Right, definitely. Definitely. And even like we were saying before, like that process of integration is not always easy, it's not always pretty, and it's not always fun. I had months where I was having these dreams that felt super stressful. And then as soon as I was able to get that breakthrough, it was like, oh, this is why we do it. So that I can gain this better understanding of myself. And now I feel more whole. Because regardless that jokester was going to be a part of me, whether or not I acknowledged it. But like you said, I gave it a job. I gave it a place. I gave it a home. And now it has a place within myself. It can express itself more honestly, and not just be chasing me down all the time.
Yeah, full of resentment, like something in prison. Yeah, exactly. I had to find that out too in my own way. But that's cool, man. Cool how everybody it forms differently in our dreams, depending on what I guess touches our mind the most.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Really awesome dream. Really awesome dream.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, uh, yeah, just in general, servers like this and self-reflection through dreams and through journaling and active imagination and stuff like that has really helped me on that process. And then it's like it feels like it's made my dreams that much more meaningful. Also, it's like, oh, okay, I kind of get the narrative that's going on here.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, man. Thanks. That was useful.
Thank you guys for listening. Always down to share.
So what else is on y'all's minds?
For me, not much anymore. I mean, everything with the Trickster was kind of said there, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess other than that, like yeah, what I still wanted to say with regards to trauma is that like how it works is that you have the you kind of have the ego and it like that clings onto like the belief structure. Then you have an emotional barrier, and then behind that is like the shadow and where also the trauma is. So what kind of happens is with the belief structure gets attacked, which is like a compensation for whatever happened within the trauma, the clinging onto that specific belief structure. Then the emotional barrier flares up, and that's like the rage. What happens, and it's trying to disassociate the person from actually experiencing the trauma, from being like relived in that sense. So then they're trying to and then they try to the ego tries to stay in control basically, and it goes full like trying to control the situation, or completely just lashes out. And in that sense, when that happens, the brain goes down into the lower level. So the what the scientists call reptilian brain, or the lower part of the brain, and then it shuts down critical thinking parts of the brain. Like they get aspects of that just gets shut down, and it all goes to the lower brain that just takes over. That's kind of what you're then dealing with when you when they feel attacked in that sense. So it's very difficult then to talk to them and to be able to reason to them, because they're just in like survival panic mode basically when that happens.
Yeah, I think you just gotta drain the energy away from them by putting it into something good, and not buy their NFTs.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yes, there's a saying that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is give them time away from you.
I think that's definitely true. Because doing that gives them, it kind of forces them into a bit of solitude, right? If people continue to do that to them, like naturally, a lot of people are going to look for a distraction when something like that happens. But if you continuously see it, then it's going to force you to be alone, and that time being alone is what's going to cause self reflection. And yeah, you see it in so many different cultures, so many different myths. You know, it's like the sage, the wise man, goes into the forest by himself and reflects to learn more about himself. And yeah, then he goes back and is able to bring it back to the people, able to bring back his knowledge. Moses went on top of the mountain to speak to God, and then came back down to the Israelites to speak to them after. Yeah, so giving people space can be a really helpful thing, because it forces them to be alone with their thoughts and then confront them and look at them.
And Henry David Thoreau comes to mind when he went to Walden Pond and built a cabin himself and wrote a book. And then he came back. You know, he came back with a book and shared his experiences out in nature.
And in that sense, like yeah, it gives them the opportunity to connect to the self in that sense, to have that space. Yeah, Because if you're constantly distracting yourself and constantly busy, and you don't have that like solitude, then it's just very hard to like really take that time to reflect. And with myself, it was in the moments that what I was actually not doing much at all, like away from society and people around me, that I could actually think. And I do have to say that being in nature, or like surrounded by nature, really helps with that, to make you think, because it calms you down also a lot. Being in nature, it's one thing that I really noticed. I started with walks in the park, and ended up now somewhere else where I can just be in the woods, basically. And I've really noticed like how that calmed myself down from I mean, looking back at who I used to be. I mean, I used to be such a stressed individual, really, like very much stressed out of my mind. But yeah,
I hear you, man. Me too. And the woods definitely helped. Walks. I know this might make me sound crazy, but barefoot walks in the woods. It doesn't hurt your feet like you would think. It's not like you're gonna like step on a stick and hurt yourself. But man, that's some good vibes, man.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I'm lucky enough to live close to a beach, and for me, I don't know. Just in general, the ocean just reminds me of God, and I have all these dreams about the ocean and stuff like that. Because the beauty of the beach, I wish I lived somewhere close to a forest too one day. But the beauty of the beach and the waters for me is it looks like it's infinite. If you look out in the ocean, you don't see where it ends. And even if you're at a beach where there's not a lot of skyscrapers, you can really see the sky just go and go and go. But when you live in a city, these things get cut off by these big buildings. So it's like it takes that connection away to that feeling of the infinite in your day to day life. And yeah, spending time in nature really helps with that. And also just looking at the sky, whether it's the night sky or in the morning. I love to take time to just look at the stars and kind of take a deep breath. And it's like, oh, you know, I shouldn't take all these things too seriously sometimes in life. It's okay to take a deep breath and just kind of be happy to be alive and feel that gratitude.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. You look up and you're like, look at all those stars and these nebulas, and they're not like flying apart or doing anything too crazy. They did that already, I guess, and maybe it's gonna be okay. It looks the same as it did 10 years ago when I looked up at the night sky. So it becomes more and more of a comfort, I think, as you get older. You're like, it's still there. It hasn't fallen. So maybe it's going to be okay.
oh yeah, looking up to the night sky, definitely, definitely very good thing to be doing. And next to that, like um, breath work really also started helping me a lot. I used to do meditation, but before, but now not just breath work, and and yeah. I have done also the walking barefoot. I used to do that in the park. I would take my shoes off and then just walk barefoot over the grass, and yeah, it was one of the most like grounding experiences that I've had, especially if it's like night, because then there are no people around, no cars, no other noise, and it's just you, the grass, and the trees. That's just beautiful.
Yeah, man. Totally. Totally is. So I guess I'm going to ask, how many of you guys have you done psychedelics?
Um, I've never done any psychedelics. I've used well, It's more like a shaman drum, really, what I've used. But it's not really a substance. It's more like the rhythmic beat that does the trick.
I've done them a few times, I would say. Yeah, they were definitely helpful for me. Really, yeah, you know what it was too? Just that it opened my mind to how interesting the world is. Because it's like it's one thing to read uh like quantum mechanics or something like that and be like, whoa, that's really the life that we're living. But then for me, either doing like a deep meditation or being on psychedelics or meditating on psychedelics, which for me is like, you know, something that really rocketed me in the right direction in life, I feel like. Really helped me develop that sense of awe at life. Just to really like, it was one thing to hear about how crazy the world is, and it's kind of like we take it for granted. Like we don't think about how amazing it is, like the miracle of life. It's mind blowing, but it's too mind blowing for us to really keep in our minds all the time. So I think for me, those experiences really made it click. It was like I actually understood, like it's this mind blowing, and even then, I knew I couldn't understand just truly how mind blowing it is. I'm just me, you know. In the universal scale, I'm an ant. I'm much less than an ant in our own perspective. So to even feel like I got a glimpse of that made me really grateful.
Yeah, me too, man. I've tried them, and I was a very very rational, agnostic type of science person. Uh, I don't know, kind of uh, just real hardline, man. I don't know. I guess it was my personality, and and then I started getting into reading about religions, and then I found out about this DMT molecule documentary on Joe Rogan's. Joe Rogan hosted this thing on Netflix, and I watched it, and I was like, "What's that? What's all that about? I don't understand that. Are they serious?" And so it became this thing. I found out when I was like a teenager. I became kind of obsessed with this thing, this DMT, and I went out looking for it. I had never done any psychedelic ever, and I just wanted to do this one because I guess they were like, you meet God and you go to another dimension. I'm like, bullshit. No, you don't. This is fucking. They're lying. This is like some kind of propaganda or whatever to get people to I don't know, do something. I don't know why I thought that, but anyway, I eventually found it, and I smoked it, and yeah, it totally changed my mind. Yeah, I was like, man, I went to another dimension. What happened? Was that a dream? How was I? What happened there? And it sent me down the rabbit hole, and I just started not being so hardlined on everything, and I started asking a lot more questions, and I stopped being so certain about everything. I was like, I started like, why am I so certain about anything? What? How could I have thought this way? And it was like I was in some crazy dream. And I went to like all these different worlds or planets and these nebulas, and there was all these different people interacting and talking, and they had all these different cultures. It was like I was a ghost going around everywhere, like I was some kind of Scrooge, and these nebula ghosts were like, let me show you what's going on over here, and maybe it was my imagination, maybe it was a dream, or what. It didn't matter. What got me was like, this can happen to a person. I was like, what, this has some significant meaning. This is how religions probably started. If this came out of a plant, and I just started getting down this other lane, I think it really opened my mind up to a lot of stuff, even like Carl Jung and everything. And I've noticed a lot of people I come across in these groups kind of have done some psychedelics or they're interested in them, and I think that's an interesting thing. Anyway, that was my story.
That's an amazing story, man. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I can relate to I never did DMT. I'd love to do that one day. God willing, you know? But yeah, I can really relate to like the feeling of being like, wow, how was I so sure of anything? It opened my mind to that, my eyes to that. And one thing it did for me too, like I can relate. I was also like I was raised Christian. I was raised you know, in my mom's side of the family, like a super Christian family, and very sure of it. There's no questioning it. And I can respect that. But it wasn't for me. And as I got older, I became more agnostic. And yeah, that experience for me completely changed my relationship with religion, because I felt myself kind of leaning like agnostic to like not believing, kind of like, you know, atheistic feelings about certain parts of religion. But then it just opened my mind to being like, what do I know? You know, like it's like we're so sure. Could you imagine an ant trying to speak of like our solar system? You know, an ant that I see on my table outside is not even aware of which state I live in, let alone the country, let alone the planet, let alone the solar system. So it's like, I don't know, I always find it funny that people that are like atheistic and they're so sure of it. It's like, what do you know? What do I know? I don't know. And yeah, that experience for me just gave me an entire perspective shift on religion. And personally, I've found so much um I don't know, maybe solace is the word. I found a lot of like safety. I found a lot of love in studying religions of the world and seeing the wisdom that people have gotten from their own experiences, whether they're psychedelic or meditative experiences or breathing experiences, shamanic drumming or anything. It's like, what happens when these people sit down and really ponder the biggest questions of life? And it's just given me so much gratitude also. Like, for example, in the Bible, when Moses talks about uh, getting to see God, like wanting to see God, he couldn't see his face. You know, he could only see his back. It's like if you saw God's face, it'd be too much. Any man would die. And it's like it almost felt like that when I was having my own experience. It was like, oh well, even if this is a glimpse of the beauty of everything, and I know enough to be able to see the beauty of everything, just being aware that this possibility can exist for any human mind changed my entire perspective on life in general, and made me. It freed me to stop being so sure of everything that I say.
Yeah, one thing that happened to me immediately after I came off the DMT trip, is I heard a bird chirping outside, and and this is a memory that sticks with me. I was like, I could have been a bird, man. And just that one thing is like, I'm so glad I'm a person and I can like sit here and talk to you guys about what just fucking happened to me. And I just felt totally shifted. I was like, it could have gone that way. What, according to my mind and science and everything, I could have just been a bird, right? But I don't know. I thought that was a funny thought I wanted to share.
It's definitely funny, but it's like, I don't know, when you're having those experiences, it's like those little things that we take so for granted. Like, okay, obviously I'm not a bird. But it's one thing to say it, and there's another thing to really feel like you completely understand. Like, wow, I'm actually not a bird. Fundamentally, me and birds are made up of the same thing. Obviously, we're not the same species, but we're both made up of atoms, and then all these small particles that make up the entire universe, the building blocks of the universe. We're both made up of those same building blocks. Yet that's a burden on me, and I'm having this experience that a year ago, a week ago, anytime before I had this experience, I wouldn't even be able to imagine. So yeah.
Yeah. I would say there's a lot of healing potential in psychedelics, and there are a lot of studies going on right now about that to help people with PTSD and stuff like that. With that, but I do think that it's important to say that it would probably be best if only grown-ups would use those because, yeah, well, the brain is still developing. It might not be the best idea.
Yeah, I have some horror stories. I won't put you through them all. I can sometime later, but yeah, I've known people that go crazy. And it's serious. Adults even, good. So that goes without saying with younger people, teenagers, you really need to stay away from this stuff till you're older. I didn't get into this until I was like in my early 20s. But yeah, it will mess you up, man. And I was just gonna say, I think what it did for me is it let me feel meaning for the first time. For some reason, I wasn't able to feel it or connect my logic to my feeling or whatever. I don't know why. But it did. It like healed that connection. Maybe something, went wrong. I don't know. But it healed that connection. And then I was like, oh, I can feel the meaning of this. I'm not a bird, and this is great. And I can do something with this. Started to feel positivity a lot more instead of be so cerebral in my thinking. But other people that might be chaotically emotional or something, maybe if they take it, it might make them go nuts. I think I've seen it happen. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but for some reason I felt a need to get into it. I felt like it was going to be something to help me understand my confusion with religion, the afterlife, angels, demons. I had these questions. They were just tormenting my logical mind, and I felt like that was the one thing I could do to maybe find an answer, because they said you release DMT as you're dying, and this might be the chemical portal and all that. I heard all these things. I was like, I don't know, but when I didn't know until I tried it. Like maybe there's something to all that, and it led me into all these other doorways. But definitely, it's true. You can find hell and get eaten up by demons and go crazy for sure. It's extremely, extremely dangerous.
Certainly, I think that's really true. I think with experiences like that, um, with such large scales that they play out on, and how much they can affect your cognition and your perspective on the world, they should be respected. They should be respected. But I think as a result of the stigma that's been put around them in our modern world, it's disconnected us from long traditions of shamans and things of that nature that facilitated these experiences so that they'd be the most beneficial for the everyday man or just any person, when you're ready for that time. But because that's not the world that we live in generally now, and they're just kind of treated as whatever, like, oh, you can have this crazy experience. For some people, they can, and they can benefit immensely from that experience. But other people, they would really need someone there guiding them through it to get benefits out of it. And or maybe they're just not in the part of their life, whether they're too young or too immature or not ready to experience all that they shouldn't have those experiences at that time. Or even people that have like family history of mental illness, like schizophrenia and things of that nature, shouldn't touch them. I don't think they're for everybody. And yeah, I think they should be respected and treated with respect because of the immense power that they have.
Yeah, and with all that said, when I did all of this stuff, I always had people around me that I trusted. I was like laying on a bed. I wasn't like doing any of that. Eventually, I did go out into the woods with my psychedelic adventures once I felt confident, and my friends and Steph did it too, and we kind of felt like we leveled up to understand what would happen. But yeah, you definitely need to have people you trust talk about it. I watched all kinds of YouTube videos about it, researched it. I got books, read all Rick Strassman's stuff, listened to all kinds of Terrence McKenna videos. Kind of just try to get into the culture of people that were experienced with that type of stuff, and tripped with those people that I knew for years, and trusted them. It helps a lot because one of my buddies, he had a bad time he got into a dimension where there was like a purple sky and these different colored trees, and there was this alien with like bright pink skin, and his eyes went from his chin to his forehead in a straight line, like inline skates, and they would blink in this strange order. And he was wearing like a black and red leather outfit, and he was hiding and crouching behind a tree and freaking my friend out. That's what he was saying he saw. I didn't see anything like something scary. I don't know. I saw crazy shit, but I didn't feel scared. But he felt really scared, and we were all around him, and we talked to him, and I reached out and I touched his foot, and then he's like, "Whoa, man, you just touched my foot, and I think everything's okay. I don't know what just happened, but I left that place." So just by you being close and friends with somebody, you just touch them and reassure them on their foot can turn things around a lot from going very badly. So yeah, you definitely want to have some people you trust around you.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, but what you said, Leek, about shamanism, like yeah, that I've started to feel more and more that it is something that is missing, and definitely also like yeah the respect for those plants instead of like yeah the stigmatism. And it's kind of like why I'm trying to momentarily like reach out to shamans here where I'm currently living to learn from them, to really like tap into those old traditions instead of just just trying to figure out stuff on my own, because yeah they provided the structure in that sense, like how to deal with certain things, how to see certain things, how to approach like different different plans or different techniques. But yeah, it's a very good point you brought up there about the shamanism and all of that.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think the importance of tradition is huge with stuff like that. You know, because as much as like we were talking before about individuality and the importance of embracing individuality and all those things, it's like also you're a human, you know, and a lot of the things that we're feeling are things that other people have felt at some point, and it's nice to kind of have like a guide to walk you through it that's studied in these experiences and knows them. And yeah, I think for me, that's one of the reasons why doing having those experiences kind of brought me towards religion, because a lot of the things that I would read in certain religious texts and mysticism within different religions were reflective of the experiences that I was having on an individual level. So it's like, okay, I kind of have a guide. I can see people have gone down this path before, and I can see where others have gone wrong. And yeah, it's important to be aware of all that stuff when you go into it. Got to be really careful.
So it seems like a sense of community is important with our topic today, and also this other topic that we went into. And yeah, I think it is very important.
Yeah, I think so too.
It makes it to where all the bad stuff can't survive in the light of the community of everybody caring for each other, trying to really earnestly communicate. It just it scurries away. It's like I can't get any power here. These people are individuals.
Yeah, I think definitely that's probably like the approach for it. Coming back to like the original topic. I don't know if anyone still wants to add something. I was thinking maybe about like wrapping things up for this episode.
I think we're good. I mean, I feel like we delved into a lot of stuff. We went off on some tangents, but I think they were important in their own way to the larger discussion.
Yeah, I concur. I think we were orbiting a core topic, and we were just kind of hitting some different tactics, solutions that we've all come across, and we got different ways of attacking the same problem of these grifters. And I got nothing left to add. It was great talking to you all. I hope we can continue to do this. I got a lot out of it.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everyone. It was an honor having you all here, and for sure, like, yeah, you can join next time. I mean, anyone can, because that's kind of the idea of of this space, so that anyone can comment, talk on here, and this is then recorded, but I also have the get together that's like not recorded, and it's kind of like why I have that as well weekly. But if any of you would want to talk about anything at some point, like just say so in like suggestions or announcements in the server, and we can look at when we have the next talk.
Sounds great to me.
Okay, I think that'll do it.
Yeah, me too, man. It was great. This was awesome. Restores your faith in humanity, you know.